Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final presentation of our Leadership and Policy in Healthcare class, focusing on leadership, change, leadership complexity, teamwork, and policy. This presentation is brought to you by Team 4, Yadira, Jennifer, Tutu, and myself, Patricia. Specifically, we will discuss complex systems to leadership and change in healthcare, resources for change in the healthcare industry, those obstacles encountered in the face of change initiatives, and how resources are used for solutions, and finally, the strategies to enhance personal leadership.
As a society, we are being redefined by the new competitive landscape called the knowledge era. This era is characterized by the evolution of interconnectedness of our world, which redefine how organizations must adapt in order to stay competitive. There was a need to transition within the new economy in which knowledge is shared and efficiency is mandatory in order to adapt to the high-paced demands to maintain a competitive edge. The new competitive landscape looks different than the industrial era. It is no longer linear. Its functions have become complex, primarily as a result of globalization, technology, deregulation, and the need for improved democratic environment. The dynamic changes required that organizations shift from individuals and controlling views and move towards a complex, adaptive system wherein creativity, flexibility, and innovation is the driving force. Organizations must pool their resources, not in the same fashion as the industrial era, wherein pure production was the ultimate goal, but to shift towards knowledge that is rare and difficult to imitate. The complex adaptive system required leaders of this dynamic system to understand how to adapt and interact their workforce towards the common purpose of the organization. The shift in leadership required a new framework identified as complex leadership theory. Complex leadership systems require an adaptive environment which thrives on a dynamic system focused on change within any part of the organization. Leaders emerge within every aspect of the evolving process, and thereby leadership events is the collective process of many actors, employees over a period of time. This translates into a system phenomenon wherein leadership theory has shifted towards distributed leadership. In distributed leadership, any person within the structure may function either as a leader or a follower, depending on the circumstances which require a shift in a process, the interactions that bind them, all with a cohesive end goal amongst participants. This new social paradigm within the organization leads to a collective identity requiring a change in patterns of cognition and behavior. People are inspired to take on leadership roles, to seize new opportunities that provide solutions to the status quo. Leaders are no longer the direct source of change, but rather they enable the adaptation of conditions necessary for the new mindset and to leverage varying skills and experience for adaptive changes. Leaders also must develop an environmental culture that promotes the identity formation process so that the participants take back ownership of the interactions and processes required to succeed within this new era. Complex leadership systems require transformative changes which aid in bridging the gap to support a more sustainable movement towards empowering creativity, instilling a need of urgency for positive changes, not only for the organization, but also within the individual who will reimagine new processes to adapt to the evolving environment. To accomplish this task, a change in leadership thinking must be enacted. Leaders must shift their thinking from the traditional leadership mindset wherein the leader makes decisions, gives instructions, delegates tasks, and micromanages the employees. Typically, the industrial era leader is looked upon as an expert. In the new paradigm within complex leadership theory, the leader's role is to enable people to act, establish a common vision that is shared by all players, improves and facilitates teamwork. The leader is also responsible for promoting an environment where decisions are made collaboratively so that feedback and coaching is provided in a positive and open forum. So as providers, the new healthcare system is the embodiment of a complex adaptive system that requires all professionals to understand the shift from a fee-based healthcare towards a value-based model. Under the previous model of fee-based services, providers were on an island with only special members on that island. So for instance, speech therapists spoke with occupational therapists and physical therapists, but did not generally communicate with the gastroenterologist or the neurologist. So coordination of services were often not in alignment within all healthcare practitioners. Through the current model of collaborative processes, all providers are required to demonstrate a coordinated effort in improving the outcomes delineated by the patient's primary concerns and with providers across disciplines. The fee-based system was set up with a top-down model, where leaders designed and implemented policies, procedures, and treatment efficacy models that were to be followed by individuals down the organizational ladder. The focus was on productivity. The longer a patient continued services, the longer an organization received funding for those services. This fee-based system did not have parameters which focused on the quality of services, the shared responsibility for progress between medical providers, patients, and caregivers. Healthcare reform changed the playing field, requiring leaders and their agents to transform their processes, adopt a new social paradigm. As such, we now find ourselves as providers working within a complex adaptive system where every team member is equally responsible for the end goal, to transmit an effective and collaborative change so different players become leaders when efficiency, quality of services, and responsibility for outcomes now lies within every participant within the healthcare system, including the patient and the family, which was often perceived as the end product of results and not as the part of the complex process of attaining identifiable results. The new focus is based on knowledge and experience. Competition under the fee-based model meant that facilities would provide services despite not having specialties within a specific area of speech due to the compensation of said services. Whereas now, under the value-based model, the penalty incurred for not proving success in outcomes will encourage strategic alliances to form across organizations. With input from all the stakeholders, from the patients and/or students' need for quality and transparency, political reforms requiring a change in our healthcare, and funding from governmental agencies, third-party insurers, adaptive changes were required. The complexity of the new system has prompted leaders to refrain from linear leadership and adapt to nonlinear changes so that leaders can emerge within departments. So within our workplace, in private practices like Jennifer's and mine, or within administration as in Patsy's case, or even within the educational system in which Tutu practices, a shift must take place in our thinking in order to foster an alignment of resources and behaviors, often tied to cognitive maps, in order to effectively engage in a dynamic review of policies and procedures. These changes within our organizations will lead to improvements in various outcomes. So for example, under leadership outcomes, the pressure is off the leader so that the leader can focus on identifying opportunities for growth and empowerment, developing symbiotic relationships across the community and within the organization. Innovation is sparked from the necessity to improve efficiency and meet government, political, and insurance expectations, along with research and development emerging as a necessity. Creativity is sparked as the seed for innovating the dynamic process of change, so everyone is in the spirit of thought-provoking solutions. Strategic alliances are formed within the community, pooling resources to improve efficiency, and ultimately, functional treatment outcomes is the direct result of implementing new policies and procedures, which have a direct impact in how therapy is conducted. The complexity of the new bracketing events lead to all participants, including the providers, patients, students, political environment, and funding, to engage in a different environment, which will lead to an improvement in the quality of services being provided, an overhaul of the funding system, and a change of political players in the art of delivering healthcare. Tutu now will discuss the complexities of initiating and sustaining change.
Resources for introducing change. In resource-based theory, the term resource has evolved to include not only production, physical facilities, capital, human, and informational resources, but it also includes those invisible resources such as professional competencies, organizational capabilities, and the organizational culture. To start with some of the invisible resources, let's look at implementing change. 5 areas start with shared vision. This should fit into a pre-established direction based on where you want your practice to head. This can be done by preparing a strategic plan with a vision statement of the company. Effective leadership. To be effective in this change, you have to understand it, support it, explain it, and the organization has to commit to it. You must also have supportive and strong followers and willing to support the vision of change. The organizational culture supporting the change. You have to remove the complacency and have the will to change. It's very important, as the culture will improve and promote ways to enhance quality, patient care, and efficiency. Creating a readiness to change. The organizational practice cannot change without the readiness of the leaders themselves. You have to provide information desired for the change of the data collected, used for that desired change, so that employees can see and believe what needs to happen. Lastly, dealing with resistors. Resistance is natural. It's human nature. It is best to identify those in support and then those that are not in support of the change and discuss their lack of support immediately. Find out why they are against the change. They may present reasonable fears that are not previously considered. If this does not change, they may need to be terminated. Something that you have to consider in resources for introducing change is a good design. Do you have a clear vision of the desired outcomes? Did you do an audit of the current organization to know where you're standing before you start the change? Have you started rallying the employees to engage their buy-in? Let's look at the change teams. Begin a team. Give them the power to design, communicate, and change management. Look at the culture. A resource is also very important through culture. It's a top priority. It's the utilization of role models for the behavior of change, defining the new behaviors for success, providing training for the new environment, communicating the vision even when things are unclear, and providing practical and emotional support at all times to the employees as you introduce the change. Drivers of change now include resources such as globalization, technology, and workforce expectations. Globalization has increased technology by way of increasing connections across the globe. This has increased working with cross-cultural teams. Teams do not have to travel worldwide any longer. This resource opens the door to more resources and powerful insights with other perspectives and insights. It also provides the resources for leaders to lead from a distance. Technological resources have increased mobility via the cloud, web conferencing, and telepresence with others across the globe. It is more convenient to share and obtain knowledge with increased technology. Workforce expectations have increased as individuals are more mobile than previous years with increased flexibility. The organization has to determine what resources are more attractive to enforce this design, especially as they advertise to increase talent and motivate change. Redesign the workplace by optimizing cost, increasing collaboration, removing wasted space, organizing in common areas without the office, improve the employee productivity and innovation, as well as reducing the carbon dioxide emissions are good ways of initiating resources for change. Again, introducing a positive change to the work environment is essential. Engage the employees and ask them for their input. Impose the best workplace design for desired outcomes. Provide choices. Utilize technology and social media for increased resources. Engage leaders via management to gain support, and align those procedures to practice such as practice management and reward initiative. Again, all of these things come by way of physical resources and non-tangible or invisible resources.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that insightful discussion regarding resources for introducing change. Now, let's transition into a discussion regarding challenges of change initiatives. These include creating a new mindset, converting insight into action, and sustaining change. There are many problems involved in creating a new mindset. Fear of risk-taking is common. Then there is a lack of education. The change must be meaningful to all employees. Employees must have a personal understanding of the significance of the changes and how they are positively affected. This increases ownership of the additional responsibilities required to implement the change. For example, as an SLP in a school district, successful implementation of change, for me, requires logical explanation of significance and benefits to teachers so they will be more likely to commit and prioritize the change in their busy schedules. Clinging to tradition impedes the creation of a new mindset. Old methods aren't always the most efficient or correct methods. Relatedly, the absence of innovation and willing to think beyond traditional methods will impede the creation of a new mindset. There are many solutions associated with creating a new mindset. Early identification and management of risks will ease concerns of loss or waste of time. Strategic plans may be developed via rehearsal of several potential futures through problem solving and innovation exercises. The ability to plan for and account for multiple possible futures increases a company's ability to identify, adapt to, and maximize upon future industry changes. Converting insight into action can be another challenge of change initiatives. Converting insight into action takes time, resources, and effort. Because implementing initiatives is time-consuming and often associated with responsibilities outside of the main job, support and incentives must be provided to inspire motivation and preserve commitment. For example, in the rehabilitation setting, monetary incentives are offered to those who implement new changes successfully while preserving productivity. Converting insight into action requires flexibility in that leaders must be flexible with the way the initial idea will be implemented. Converting insight into action requires commitment. Awareness of office culture is imperative, either in overcoming cultural resistance or maximizing on cultural support. Implementation of a successful change management initiative requires commitment from upper management, i.e., executives and CEOs, with collective agreement regarding strategy. Converting insight into action requires communication. CEOs and executives must communicate with each other, and executives must communicate with lower-level employees. In the rehabilitation setting, team meetings and in-services are held to keep members informed and problem-solve implementation challenges. In the corporate world, stakeholder mapping is often utilized as a solution to converting insight into action. Analysis of future evolution of the company climate through assessment of stakeholders, measurement of influence, and analysis of stakeholders' disposition towards the initiative, whether cooperative or oppositional, protects organizations from risks when venturing into new territory by anticipating and minimizing the threats posed by those risks. Negotiation is imperative, as leaders must be open to strategy alterations and accounting for stakeholder preferences. Lastly, sustaining change can be a significant challenge of change initiatives. Embedding change into the skeleton of the organization in terms of structure, culture, and function is not an easy task. Premature celebrations of success will impede efforts to sustain change. Leaders can often be quick to move on to other issues before the change has been incorporated into the structure and culture of the organization. For example, recently, the Texas Education Association, also known as TEA, awarded a passing grade for their evaluation of a school district special education department, with the specification that changes must be made to the documentation of evaluations. District management was prematurely relieved to have passed the evaluation, not immediately communicating to the employees the impending stress of significant changes that would have to take place to keep TEA from returning for a more in-depth scrutiny were the changes not implemented within the permitted time frame. In this case, premature celebration impeded the progress of sustaining change. Solutions for sustaining change may include rotation of initiative team membership, scheduled situational evaluations, and ongoing assessment of original change initiatives. Rotation of initiative team membership is necessary to maintain energy, sustain commitment, and generate new ideas. Scheduled situational evaluations keep change initiators accountable for ensuring that the change initiative is progressing as planned. Ongoing assessment of the original change initiative allows alterations to be made in order to sustain the change as the company's future unfolds. With the aforementioned example of TEA, it was the ongoing employee assessment of ensuring adherence to TEA's timeline that kept team members accountable for their allocated responsibilities in sustaining the changes. Patricia will now share her insight regarding strategies to enhancing personal leadership.
When we lead, we guide, we motivate and inspire. But how do we enhance our ability to lead? And how do we maintain and nurture our strategies for leadership? To lead, we must realize and be aware of change. Change will happen. After all, to succeed, we have to continue to evolve along with the ever-changing and dynamic healthcare industry. Think of it as a cyclical paradigm. When change happens, we need to use the appropriate strategies to be able to then effectively take charge, partner up with the team, and lead. Let's examine and discuss some of the strategies that will facilitate our ability to lead, from finding your purpose, having a positive vision, building leadership within the team, empowering the team, and using reflection to enhance leadership. Having a purpose leads to exceptional performance. It is the pathway to a greater well-being. According to Craig and Snook, Fewer than 20% of leaders have a strong sense of their own individual purpose. Purpose is not necessarily a list of skills, but rather it's a specific and personal philosophy that is unique to you and I. How does one find their purpose? Well, it comes from knowing who you really are. It's a clear sense of who you are. Identify your strengths, values, passions, and what moves you, what fills you with energy and genuine happiness. When you create your vision of who you are, you're ready to execute. And this means you put your purpose into action. It's your action that matters, not your words. There are many attributes of a leader, but the one that goes without saying is the ability to have a positive vision, a positive attitude. Because the healthcare industry's goal is to be value-based, a key strategy is to keep your eye on what will facilitate a clear path to achieving this goal. These include improving care management and efficiency, increasing clinical integration and expanding coordinated care, improving quality and patient safety, integrating information systems and becoming more data savvy, fostering ongoing innovation and change management, and increasing patient engagement. But how does one accomplish this? Well, you keep your eye on shaping the tools to get there. As a leader, we must envision what we want. What are the tools to get that value-based paradigm? How do we provide better care, better health, and lower costs? As speech pathologists and leaders in our profession, we can enhance our ability to provide better care through strategic planning, innovative thinking and creativity, and through careful management of each of our patients' care through the use of evidence-based practices. We can provide better health through a patient-centered model and quality patient safety. And we can facilitate lower costs through the use of multiple community and health resources that can facilitate our patients' rehabilitation. Let's consider the building blocks to leadership from the chaotic leadership perspective. A chaotic leader is one who manages themselves effectively. We spend little time and rarely excel at management of self because it's so much more difficult than simply controlling the behaviors of others. However, without management of self, the power that comes with authority can be more dangerous. It's the management of self that should occupy 50% of our time and the best of our ability. And when we do that, the ethical, moral, and spiritual elements of management surface and keep us in check. Another way to enhance your chaotic leadership is by inviting leadership by all on the team. The goal is to obtain a flow of creativity that blossoms when the team members are each given opportunities to lead. Now, never confuse activity with productivity. In the article by Hawk in The Art of Chaotic Leadership, he states that it's not what goes in your end of the pipe that matters, but what comes out the other end. So, we must think, judge, and act. Let's make our activity meaningful to produce something that will contribute to the care of our patients or to our field. And while you can learn much by listening carefully to what people say, a great deal more is revealed by what they do not say. Listen as carefully to silence as to sound. When a leader empowers the team, she realizes that leadership is complex and that complexity leadership styles bring about the best of individuals and team members of our world today. We live in the knowledge era where a leader uses a complex, interactive, dynamic form from which adaptive outcomes will emerge. This enables the learning, creative, and adaptive capacity of complex adaptive systems with a context of knowledge-producing organizations. It allows them to view and accept one's leadership position as emergent, significantly enhancing their ability to lead through an interactive dynamic, which then leads to a complex inter-exchange and collective drive for action. And finally, taking time to reflect, to gather one's thoughts in order to be mindful. As a leader, we must not only know what to say, but how to say it with clarity, explaining what we mean. Leaders many times fail to explain what they mean, and when left unclear, the concepts can cause confusion. So proper focus will definitely lead to extraordinary results. Remember your lollipop moments and own them. Buy into the fact that leadership really isn't bigger than you. It's just that it sounds bigger. Take ownership and realize that those lollipop moments are your everyday, your moments of change, moments of inspiration. They're your moments of motivation. Take it. Give yourself credit for the movements and positive changes that you cause. From a simple smile where you make someone's day and cheer them up, to that key project that gave way to a new network or partner in business, own it and realize your true power. Respecting the team, each individual, it gives you more credibility, and the team, your partners, will accept your genuine care, which is quite a valuable platform to stand on. You'll find that even if you disagree, respecting your team, your colleagues, will gain you respect in exchange. Another strategy to enhance your leadership in reflection includes thinking about personal adaptability, creating an adaptability mindset. Adapt to personalities of employees, co-workers, your patients, your families. To achieve a goal of communicating better and working with others more effectively, we must adapt your own interpersonal style to complement theirs. For example, some of you may want to be more direct or more sensitive. You don't need to change who you are, just how you sometimes behave. You never have to abandon your personality. Simply be mindful that not everyone carries your behaviors and your traits. Cultivate learning agility. Individuals with strong learning agility can rapidly study, analyze, and understand new situations and new business problems. Learning agility is a complex set of skills that allows us to learn something in one situation and apply it in a completely different scenario. This is a critical skill to possess, and you can enhance this skill by practicing to understand and relate to other people, as well as through situations to harness and multiply collective performance. You know, those tough situations. You can experience so much through them. You can learn so much through them. And by enjoying an experimentation, be curious. Being curious and effectively dealing with discomfort of change helps you to be more agile, to learn agility. And finally, reflecting upon your goals, setting timelines and milestones, to have a specific plan for execution. For example, both Yadira and Jennifer, as CEOs of their companies, they look to the future about networks and possible referral sources to keep their business running. So they would align themselves with a plan to expand their patient caseload by meeting with various healthcare organizations per month and setting up meetings to present ideas of partnership or education and training. Tutu is a speech pathologist at a school district and beginning a new school year in August. She would set proper goals per week or per month to accomplish specific student evaluations, re-evaluations, the organization of IEP meetings weekly by coordinating with diagnosticians and administration. Also, she would organize her outreach activities throughout the year strategically to align herself with the needs of her school district. And I, as an administrator and speech pathologist of a clinic, would set goals quarterly to meet my deadlines with quarterly reports, staff meetings. I would set monthly goals for licensure issues and departmental meetings, and weekly goals to ensure my patients' plans of care are generated timely, along with daily notes, supervision of assistant therapists, and daily goals to ensure that the day-to-day daily operations of my clinic and items are being completed. Setting a plan with strategic trajectories is important to facilitate a well-organized system that can be executed in phases with specific milestones and set criteria. This concludes our presentation by Team 4. It was a pleasure to share our information with you. Yadira, Jennifer, Tutu, and myself leave you with our text and image references, and a heartfelt thank you for your attention, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.